Hey, this is Pat, and today we are checking out the all-new Shoei GT-Air 3 helmet. Now, the GT-Air in Shoei's line is going to be leaning towards that full-face touring rider out there on the market. So if you're someone putting down a lot of miles or commuting to the office and you want the convenience of a drop-down sun visor, but you don't want a modular, say like the Neotech or anything else in their line, the GT-Air has always been the option to go to, and the 3 is the latest addition within the line. Now, this has been out in Europe for the better part of a year at this point. So we've seen the ECE 2206 version out there, and this is going to be the DOT version right here in front of me, and then I have the older GT-Air 2 off to my right, so we'll talk about some of the differences, but just wanted to note that this is a DOT only version. It is a different model for the United States, so we do get the DOT certification to make it legal to ride on US roads. But when you look at them side by side, a lot of key updates from Shoei this year when it comes to the newest model. A lot has to do with aerodynamics, a lot has to do with ventilation, as well as an updated shield, but a lot of the general features stay the same across the two helmets. Now, to talk about some of the quick features on here, it's still going to be an AIM shell construction, so that's an advanced integrated matrix shell construction. Still 3 shell sizes. It's extra small to medium, large is its own shell size, and then extra large up to 2 extra large is that 3rd shell size. Again, I mentioned DOT only. It's 3 pounds, 12 ounces in a medium. That's about a ½ ounce difference from the older version, which is about what we've come to expect. Not too much of a difference there. And it's going to be an intermediate oval fit, meaning it's a little bit longer front to back than it is side to side. And one thing I want to point out, after riding with it for quite a few miles, is just how comfortable the GT-Air 3 is in their line. It's really made for riders out there that are putting on some really crazy miles on their bikes or just riding for hours and hours at a time. If you want that all-day comfort, the GT-Air 3 is a hard one to ignore within Shoei's line. Price point did go up. It's up about $50. It's $750 now for the GT-Air 3 compared to $700 for the older model. But let's talk about some of the features. I mentioned there was a big update when it comes to ventilation. If I pull the old one right here in front of me, big update to the ventilation at the chin, just a redesign just to make it a little bit more aerodynamic. And that was one of the key features that Shoei was looking for, was using a lot of wind tunnel testing to make sure they were making the helmet as aerodynamic as possible to make it a little bit more stable while you're riding, but also trying to reduce the overall noise levels inside the helmet. Now, I will say, after riding with it, the noise levels did drop slightly, but you still want to be wearing earplugs while you're riding this helmet. It's still a little bit louder compared to what I think people expect when they hear it's getting quieter. It's still loud. You want to still protect your ears with some earplugs inside of it, so keep that in mind. One of the key updates when it comes to ventilation I want to talk about, though, is with this top vent. As you can see on the older model, it was very tall, really stuck out into the wind, so they streamlined it while improving how much air can pass through into the inside of the helmet. Slightly forward from the older model. If I actually tilt them upright, you might be able to see that on camera. It moved slightly forward, but again, nothing too drastic, just really trying to get that air flowing through, because if you think that drop-down sun visor, once it's in the up position, is blocking a huge chunk of that area for airflow to come through. So by keeping it up on top of the helmet, they're able to get that through to the top of your head. The exhaust vents at the top, which is what I refer to them as because they are sucking out the air, did move forward just to help, again, with their wind tunnel testing. They realized that they could get a little bit more air pulling out of the helmet, because these ones up top are going to be the only exhaust vents on the helmet. If I spin it around to the back, you'll notice there aren't any dedicated exhaust vents in the back. It's just these 2 that are going to help pull it through the intake vent and out of the helmet to get all that hot air out on those hotter riding days. So really nice updates when it comes to the ventilation, just to help flow that air through. Another key update came with the face shield. You do have a center locking system, and you do have a good return to a city cracked position down at the bottom. So if you just press the button, it opens a little bit. And one thing I want to point out, they did improve the detents from the older model. It got really stout, so you can go ahead and put it in any position that you need. If you're at a stoplight or if you're cruising around at lower speeds, you can put it in that position and make sure that's going to hold with all that wind resistance going on there. So I do dig that Shoei updated that. I'm a big fan of really hard detents on the side of the helmet, just to make sure that it stays in that position. Again, if I'm cruising through traffic or if I'm just going around town, I like having that open, and I tend to just have the drop down sun visor down to protect my eyes and keep that dark smoke there for the sun. One other thing I want to point out with the face shield, actually 2 other things I want to point out. It does include a Pinlock insert in the box, so you do get that included. You can see I have it installed on here. That was the same as the old version, but it does come with it in the box, a newer version, just a little bit more coverage, a little bit better seal against the face shield. And the other one I want to call out is just the gasket seal along the side. Hopefully our camera guy can get that. If you see, it's allowing air to leave so it doesn't fog up, but it's not going to allow water to come in. Say if you're at a standstill or if you're at a stop or anything like that while it's raining, It's not going to allow that water to trickle through, but it's going to allow air to leave and help defog the face shield. So I do like those updates. It is one single continuous gasket all the way around with a pretty decent seal from what we see from other brands out there. So kudos to Shoei on that. The mechanism for removing the face shield is on the side. It's a trigger system. I just want to point out, take your time with it. It is a little bit more robust than we've seen from Shoei in the past. So it does take some finagling to get it in and out. Just take your time. You won't be breaking any tabs or anything like that. It does come with a breath guard at the front as well as a chin skirt, which I'll talk about when we get into the inside, but that's going to help with blocking the wind from going inside the helmet if it's colder out or if you just like not having that wind flowing through. Taking a peek at the back, I mentioned before that the ventilation at the top did move a little bit farther forward. Might be an issue when it comes to rain if you are sitting in standstill rain, that is directly on top of the helmet, but in its main function, which is pulling hot air out of the helmet, that's going to really help excel in pulling that out and really cooling off the head on those hotter days. You can still see it's got a nice flat back. They did reduce a little bit of the overall shell construction when it comes to the overall size. Got a little bit smaller, but again, we're talking like 1-2% within that area. So not a crazy update, but I do like that Shoei's constantly pushing in that direction. And what you also might note, if I put them on each side, is just the size of the SRL system at the side, which is a Cena dedicated Bluetooth unit built for the Neotech, for the GT-Air 3. That is a lot smaller. It is a new version. It's the third version within that, but you can always buy an adapter and a plate on the side to use the old SRL2, or if you want to clamp down third-party brands out there when it comes to comms, you do have that option. I do like that they reduced that size. I think it was a little bit overkill on the GT-Air 2 as well as the Neotech 2 and a couple other models in their line, so I like that they've moved to the smaller one on that side. It's very noticeable. On the sides, you do get these two pods, which actually stick out a little bit on the side. Wanted to call them out just because that is from their aerodynamic and wind tunnel testing. They were noticing a lot of pullback on the noise inside the helmet by adding these humps on the side and really protecting this drop-down sun visor trigger on the side as well. So I just wanted to call that out. It does give a very different look to it, a little bit more material at the sides, but I do like that they are including it just for the sake of noise reduction inside the helmet. Again, you're still gonna wanna wear earplugs on the inside, just to make sure that you're really protected. Removable chin skirt at the front. If you don't use it, I'm not a fan of chin skirts. I think they get more in the way than I get the benefit out of. But if you're riding in colder temperatures, it's definitely an added benefit for you down there. It is a micro ratchet system for entrance into the helmet, which you can see here. One thing I want to call out, you see those little white grayish tabs on the inside? That's actually a nylon reinforcement. So they did make this micro ratchet system a little bit thinner and reinforced it at the bottom so you can go ahead and still have the trusted security of it. With a lot of people love micro ratchet over double D rings, a lot quicker to use, but they did reinforce it, so I like that they did that. Emergency release cheek pads on the bottom so you can pull it out. If you're just maintaining the helmet, don't use these. That does have the potential to snap off the tabs on the inside of the cheek pads. That's just in case of emergencies, but as you just saw, it pops out really easily. Nice contour to them, nice soft material, and again, the cheek pads have enough area that you can wear prescription glasses, or if you're wearing thinner sunglasses and you prefer that over the drop down, you do have enough space to go ahead and slide that past your ears. Just keep in mind that's for usually prescription arms on the side of the glasses, not so much big, thick Oakleys or things like that that have larger sides. I'll go ahead and pull out the interior and we can get a look at that top liner. Again, nothing crazy here. They do have a custom fitted system out there if you have a local shop that might be running their program. Their PFS system for getting a maximum custom fit inside the helmet is available out there for an added charge if you really want to customize it, but you can always swap out cheek pads on your own, figure out exactly what size is right for you. Taking a peek at the interior, one thing I do like in here is you do get the covers for the speaker pockets on the inside. That does help if you're not using a comm system. It keeps that pocket for the speakers nice and covered, so it's not going to cause any echo or any extra noise or anything like that. But you can see it's really designed for that SRL system, that SRL3 system with the pre-routed wiring and everything like that in case you do want a comm system. That's going to be mesh for communications, and you can use the older systems if you buy the adapter as well. Good channels inside the EPS. Again, when it comes to a touring helmet, you want to make sure you're getting all that hot air out on hotter days. If you're riding in slower traffic, you want to make sure the helmet is maximizing ventilation across your head. So I do like that they're including all of those channels in the EPS just to give a little bit more benefit to the riders out there. But yeah, all in, I think the GT-Air 3 is a solid update. I would have loved to seen the 2206 ECE safety rating maybe be included for the US market, although the helmets are very similar. They are slightly different between the two. Like I said, this being DOT only, but improvements in the ventilation, improvements in the overall face shield, the interior. If you're someone that might be on an older GT-Air system or looking to get into Shoei, this is gonna be a solid option at $750. If you're in the GT-Air 2 already, I don't think if it's a crazy update enough for you to go ahead and buy that new helmet and get that new model. But if you are shopping around, if you're saying an old Shoei GT-Air, or if you're in the Neotech and you're looking for a full face option, I think the GT-Air 3 might be a solid one for your ride. But if you have any other questions, go ahead and click that info button. That's going to take you over to the product page where you can read other rider reviews and see what other riders are saying about the all new GT-Air 3. If you still have questions after that, or if you have questions on sizing, feel free to reach out to our customer service team. They're all riders, happy to help you get set up for your next ride. I want to thank you for joining me and checking out the all new Shoei GT-Air 3 helmet. I'm Pat, and I'll see you in the next video.